Snow Woke and the 7 diversity hires were already a guaranteed disaster. But if this woman does not stop talking to the press and doesn't shut up, Snow White may actually end up the most hated movie of all time.
Me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What
For modern audiences.
did you mean by that?
Don't speak.
I always admire actresses and actors who would play a role that they were absolutely enamored with. You could feel the passion through their work, through their presentation, and even through their interviews. But it seems as of late, many of these people who are playing these roles through the interviews, we see them actually despising the source material.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and
That's so funny.
And we can't even just blame the actors, because the writers also lose this intense hatred for source material or for the movies on which the movies they're now starring in with the modern versions are based on. It used to be that they would have a certain appreciation and understanding for the time period in which certain movies came out. Granted, the 1930s were ancient, so you would think that people with common sense would understand the movies for what they were when they were. And throughout this interview with this person named Rachel Zegler and many other suggested videos and interviews.
Dude, Rachel Zegler is single-handedly making Snow White absolutely unbearable to everyone. I don't think there's a single person currently in existence who's like, oh yeah, Rachel Zegler, yeah, she's a great actor. No. Everyone unanimously dislikes her to the utmost degree. It's insanity.
I've seen of her, all it has successfully done is turned me off from ever watching this remake. Even though I've lost complete faith in Disney and all the remakes and lifeless works that they've put out, this really does not help with their image or with the promotion of their Dead in the Water film. Snow White is supposed to be one of the most likable and affable characters that we've ever seen. And yet the person who is playing her and is supposed to be promoting this movie is acting like the evil queen. She would have been a very good cast for that because her personality fits it exactly.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her
Big birds. I like it.
love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
So let me get this straight. You understand that for the
I really want to punch the computer screen, I ain't gonna lie. That she just oozes dislikability. It's insanity.
time period, and this being a fantasy genre cartoon, that it is weird and the guy stalks her. But I would bet you have no problem with modern literature and erotica with women doing the same, or entertaining fantasies where the guys do the same. A lot of behaviors that many people find problematic IRL, they're totally capable of compartmentalizing and understanding the difference between fantasy and reality. And they would be totally okay if a rich guy or a vampire or someone like that were to whisk them away and tempt them into...
Yo, she's speaking absolute fact. She's absolutely slaying it. Wow.
Seduce them, knowing full well that it would be highly creepy, manipulative, and toxic of a relationship if that were to happen in real life. Hence why these are called fantasy genres.
Isn't it obvious?
They're not real. Furthermore, back then, even if we're talking about an IRL situation, people didn't have social media. And how many of us women, when we're interested in a guy, will check out his social media to make sure he's not a creep? We will stalk him on all his social media platforms.
Yeah, you should probably actually stop doing that. A lot of us don't have Facebook because it's annoying. A lot of us don't have Instagram because guess what? Most guys don't actually like taking pictures. Imagine that. But it's almost a necessity because if you don't have it, that's some kind of red flag. Women, you need to become actually better.
To find out what kind of person this is. He doesn't know we exist. We're doing it from afar. And I imagine someday in the future, people are going to look back at people like us today and think that it was highly problematic that we stalked other people on social media without their knowledge. You might make the argument then and say, in all theory, it's not the same thing, you see, because when you make a profile, everyone's there to see it. It's public. That's what it's for. But yet, before the advent of that, these girls would also ask around, kind of talk to his friends, kind of befriend his sister, do some really creepy things. I have heard these same women do that stuff, but that's totally okay. The prince in the movie, which she obviously didn't watch, heard Snow White singing and went into the courtyard and then went up next to her and started singing as well and introduced himself. Now, I admit it was very creepy because I would be scared out of my mind if I were singing and someone just popped up beside me all of a sudden and started singing too. Regardless, she showed interest in the prince as well. I'm pretty sure had she told him to go away and she wasn't interested, he would have apologized and left like a gentleman. However, she went back out to see him and it was very clear through their body language, despite them being animated characters, that she was reciprocating the interest. Rachel Zegler sounds like one of those prude people who clutch their crucifix and turns her face up at anything remotely sexual, especially if it has to do with...
Nah, that's probably not true. Rachel Zegler probably is an absolute freak of nature in every single respect of possibility. Like, you know, she goes as woke as humanly possible. So, you know, she's into that freaky deaky type of stuff. Which she will obviously not tell. And she's probably literally watching every single video that is on YouTube about her in this Snow White situation. Oh, and by the way, we're already at the point, literally just a couple of hours ago at this point, that she is already starting to blaming the fans for being evil misogynists because they don't like her. Yeah. Pretty quick, huh? Who did not predict the classic "the fans are evil" approach when everyone starts to hate on her? I sure didn't.
Men. While it's okay to have that personal opinion, I don't think it's a good look if you're promoting this kind of movie, using the name from the old movie to draw in fans of that franchise or that movie who did see those themes and appreciate those themes and like the movie for what it was. Obviously,
the queen was always the hot one, honestly, in my opinion. She had a dump truck. I mean, like, damn, boy.
You're not going to make everything beat for beat because you do want to change certain things.
I already talked about this, but this is a beautiful interview. This is beautiful. It's like, she absolutely goes on a stupid tangent, and she's like, you should have stopped like 15 sentences ago. What are you doing? You're literally dragging me along. I hate you. She's like looking at her and being like, oh Jesus, I want to strangle someone right now. Oh, I hope this doesn't get in. She knows exactly how bad it is what she's doing here. It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Her blank stare and facial expression is just absolutely wonderful. Gal Gadot did wonderful here. She knows it's over. She knows.
I guess, so that it translates better in a live action. But then at that point, if you're going to change so much that it's barely recognizable as the original movie when you're remaking it to basically be the live action version, why not just make a completely different movie?
So we didn't do that this time.
So no Prince or a different kind of Prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
It's her condescendingly overly privileged and supercilious attitude for me. Nothing about her character spells likable. Nothing about her character makes me want to go see her playing the main character, Snow White. I understand there's something to be said about separating the artist from the art, but she doesn't even come across as an artist. Okay, that's enough about that, but let's address some of the things that she's saying here and why this is such a problem. While you want to remake a story and you want to make a completely different story...
Oh, yeah! Jasmine from Aladdin, that's No, wait. She's originally not white, so obviously they're not remaking that. Because what are they gonna do? Put a white girl? Of course they're not gonna... They can't remake Aladdin.
that's kind of inspired by an older work, that's fine. There are lots of works that have taken inspiration from older stories and tweaked it a little bit to make it a bit different. However, Disney live-action remakes pride themselves on basically bringing the 2D versions of their older movies into live action, so making them a realistic version but still keeping the spirit of the original. Surely you'll add a little bit of detail in there that wasn't in the original. You might even want to tone down some things to a minimalistic degree, like violence or such, because understandably, some people may see it in the live action to be a little bit too graphic, which is still silly to me. But then changing the whole aspect of the characters, instead of adding a little bit more detail and adding more character growth, the way that she's promoting this film, or the way she's marketing it, honestly makes it seem as though it's uninviting, unappealing, and quite repulsive, something that I as a girl would not be.
Yep, and that's typical Hollywood nowadays. At the start, she posed a question. A simple question. Well, no, she posed a statement. That should probably be the words to choose here. She posed the statement that Hollywood just remakes stuff, old classics, even though they don't have to be really remaked, right? Well, Hollywood does this for one reason. They think they're all the best. And obviously they cannot do any wrong. When Hollywood makes an absolute disaster like this, they all go into a circle, giant circle, pat each other on the back, just rub one out for the team from the behind, do a classic reach around, and say, it's good. These absolute imbeciles don't just understand the absolute godhood that you have created. And then they go on and create another absolute disaster with their same stupid tactics. But because everyone is the same in Hollywood in this respect, because it's a literal circle jerk there, nothing can ever change because they have never done wrong. You, as the audience, have done wrong by not understanding and appreciating the absolute masterpiece that they have created. So yeah, that's why Hollywood changes all the old materials. That's why Hollywood ruins everything. Because the old is bad and their views are simply better.
Interested in seeing. I mean, Snow White was more than just romance, sure, but she was a girl who wanted that. Most human beings want to feel love and to connect with someone else.
Yep.
So I don't know why we're vilifying that part of the very many themes that were in the original movie.
It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Sounds stupid.
What is it with people now being obsessed with killing romance? Many and most of us girls are all about romance. We want the action and the fantasy elements too, but come on.
No, you should be about becoming a girl boss and living till 60 and then understanding that your whole life was a mistake. Probably on 45 minutes too late to actually change for the most part. Man. Brutality. But yeah, you should not be thinking about romance. You should become a part of the machine. A cog in the machine, most certainly. Or a girl boss. Or a girl boss without achievements, which is like the pinnacle of modern age society.
I find it really hot when a girl is an actual character with an actual personality, and she falls in love with a guy who's strong, and he's an actual character too. None of them being backdrops. As I've said...
Wow, that's pretty deep and complex. I find it hot when a girl wears a choker. Huh.
Oftentimes, anime is the perfect medium for this. I've watched 5 shoujo anime shows and finished them in the last week and continued with the mangas and finished those too because the stories were so freaking good. Even in the elements like Zom 100, where the female character is in her right a badass, she still is able to save the male, and the male is able to save her, and she can still be a badass and her own character withstand.
Oh, real life, the actual first thing that we saw in that anime tangent right there. Real life actually is great, and the girl is like 50 times smarter than the guy. The guy is actually an absolute loser, and the girl's like pretty good in everything.
Standards. Zom 100 is one of the perfect portrayals of that, and actually most anime.
But it's one of those things. So true, it's an inner journey that she goes on to find her true self, and she meets a lot of people along the way.
I hope your unibrow takes an inner journey and decides to not be an unibrow at some point.
trying to find herself.
This trend of women in modern movies always on a quest to find themselves is getting pretty freaking old, as if by default they're always lost. Like, you can't just have a character who knows who she is. I mean, of course the story of Snow White is her doing that, finding herself and whatnot, but part of finding out who you are is understanding how you fit in the world and how to interact with all the different parts of what make you human. That includes how you interact with other people on a friendship level, on a romantic level, just cutting out the romantic element. Just
Okay, that sounds reasonable, and that's exactly where she lost Hollywood. The correct answer for Hollywood interpretation is girl boss good. Yeah, that's kind of it, but I think you get the point. Girl boss good, and everything that does not associate with girl boss is probably bad.
in the sense of empowering her for some reason makes no sense, because then people are going to get the wrong message and think that romance makes them weak, or being in love with someone, or I don't know, giving some of yourself to someone is weakness. Just as the woman shouldn't give all of herself alone to a relationship, the man shouldn't do it either. And it's a very good message to find a balance. Like I said, anime does that really, really well with a lot of them. Even when the girl starts out with the sun there and the guy is the one who she's chasing, or vice versa, unless it's a kink thing where one is a dominatrix or something like that, usually you find both characters either at an impasse, they blow up on each other, the girl finally stands up to the guy, or the guy finally stands up to the girl, and they break up or whatever, and they come back as complete people. They have found out who they are in the relationship together. I've yet to watch any anime where it starts out with one person being the aloof, stubborn one, and then them not ending up as balanced people later, learning to love each other. The guy, if he's rough and tough, ends up softening. The girl ends up stop being a pushover and stands up for herself. Like, that's usually what happens. That's what romance is supposed to be about. And even if it's not, and the girl is the kind
in general, that's just called character arcs, which are kind of good to have in movies.
Person who's like, no, I just want this and I want that. There is still a market for that as well. Erasing an element to a genre that has made itself successfully for hundreds upon hundreds of years seems very ridiculous to me. Even the sad individuals who are wallowing in the deepest pits of despair will talk a big game about how they don't like men. They may be people who weigh like 400 pounds, men or women, and they're like,
are you kidding me? Those people are usually the biggest hypocrites. We just saw a picture of Adele there. Bruh, she was fat as a whale. Guess what? Body positivity. She did her best to actually lose that weight. And guess what? For some reason, she's not regaining that weight. They all are liars. All that positive shit, that doesn't do anything. It's all just bull.
Women are disgusting. Guys will talk bad about women and how awful they are, and somebody might have hurt them in the past, and they have a warranted reason for feeling that way, but they'll still beat off to women. Like,
my balls are crumbling. I don't like this.
Women will say, oh my god, all men are evil and toxic. Look at what he's doing. But they'll still beat off to the erotica that they read about those very toxic men with those toxic traits. And they'll fantasize about those very things they claim they don't like. And you know what? All of it.
But actually, no, seriously, that's actually true. There's research on that stuff. Your Democrat politically correct girlfriend who you have never touched is literally dreaming about being railed by a Trump supporter. I'm not making that up. I'm not. Good luck.
Okay, because those well-rounded human beings that can function in society understand that that is fantasy, and it's totally fine. It is the job of the parents to further educate the children on what is fantasy and what is reality. You know, those memes about reality versus expectation? That's kind of what's going on here. And when people talk like Rachel Zegler, it sounds like they are so far removed from reality, and they take things way too seriously to the point where they feel as though they have to embrace this wild crusading activist role when they're just supposed to...
Dude, how does every single picture of her just end up feeling like she's gonna spit on you, but not in the good way? You know, how does she do it?
Be acting as a character in a fantasy project. Elements of it still should be grounded in reality so that people can immerse. I understand that, but they're taking it a little bit too seriously in terms of getting like weirded out about it. Like it's a personal thing, like the prince that she's talking about, actual person. Have you seen the old Snow White, bro? The characters look like they're made of paper mache. They're not real characters, and I think everybody and their grandmother and great-grandmother understood that. It's just people like Rachel that apparently don't have the cognizance for that. I don't know. It's really annoying, and I hope that that's a trend that stops, because
she looks like a Kardashian if fishes were Kardashians.
What's gonna happen is that movies are gonna play it safe, and they're gonna think that nobody wants to see romance. Nobody wants to see certain things, when in reality, it's only the very vocal, privileged, entitled, and delusional people who are outspoken about this, while the rest of us are quietly spending our money on other works of art that do give us what we want. Hence why companies like Disney...
I don't think Disney is gonna take that as the final lesson from this. Because that would imply that Disney is capable of looking back and learning from their actions, which is clearly impossible at this point.
Are sinking. Anyways, that's my rant. Thanks so much for watching. This has been
Great video.
You Ask, We Answer.
Absolutely, bruh. I did not expect this video to be that great. In any case, that's Altori. I think I pronounced it correctly this time. But anyway, absolutely great video, what can I say? On point about a lot of things I would never even usually speak about. 10 out of 10. Anyway, this was Quizzer Sid. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.